Have you noticed that people have just been a little bit more irritable lately? Yeah, there's been a lot of Mars square action. For the last few weeks, we've had the sun in a square to Mars, and now the sun is handing it off to Venus. Venus is in a square to Mars right now. So we've got Venus in Virgo in a square with Mars and Gemini. And if you're not familiar with Mars and Gemini, you should get hip with that because we are going to be working with Mars and Gemini through the end of March. That's right. We do have a Mars retrograde just around the corner in Gemini. It's going to begin right at the beginning of eclipse season at the end of October. And there's been a lot happening in our Gemini house, and I have an article on my website titled Renovations in the Gemini House, where you can get your Mars retrograde for your sign, your sun and your rising sign. And it details a little bit about what's been happening in our Gemini house. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. Venus in Virgo, let's come up to speed on that. Venus entered Virgo on the 5th of September and will be there through the 29th. Venus is in the sign of her fall in the sign of Virgo, which means that she struggles a little bit. That nitty gritty eye for detail and penchant for efficiency in Virgo doesn't always translate the smoothest for the love goddess. In other words, she can come off as picky, critical, a nag in this sign if she's not too careful. But what Venus in Virgo really excels at, let's remember she does have triplicity here, so there are plenty of gifts for Venus in Virgo, is that acts of service is her love language. Venus in Virgo is incredibly thoughtful and wants to help other people by showing up for them, helping their day run a little bit smoother. You'd be surprised how many relationships that were otherwise solid have ended over dirty dishes. And it's because it's those gestures that are perhaps not as romantic seeming as a bouquet of flowers or a fancy dinner that go a long way. Like how doing the dishes or cooking a meal or cleaning the house says, I love you and know you have a lot on your plate, so I didn't want you to have to worry about it. It's where these little everyday things can add up and go a really long way. So Venus in Virgo, though, is a little bit of a perfectionist. She has really high standards. And one of the challenges with this placement is that we can focus on the things that are not to our liking, not to our standards. We can focus on that so much because Virgo is very concerned with the hairs out of place. Virgo is very concerned with the hair on the back of someone's shirt. Virgo is very concerned with the picture that isn't perfectly straight on the wall. And it's like you're sitting there and that's all you can focus on. You're not focusing on the conversation. You're not focusing on the meal because this picture is driving you nuts. So that's the thing to watch with Venus in Virgo is this tunnel vision on the thing that is out of place, on the thing that is just irking us, and we want to give too much attention to it. And that can be the problem with Venus in Virgo. And in this square to Gemini, where Gemini is more experimental, let's learn a lesson. Mars in Gemini, I feel like, is pretty fearless when it comes to making a mistake. You know, Mars in Gemini sees an opportunity to learn something new. It's in the sign of the trickster. It's not afraid to fall on its ass as long as it can have a good story or a good joke or something that they learned from it. So we have this little bit of friction here between our lover planets. And I think one is, hey, like, fuck it, let's try it. What do we have to lose? Or like, who cares that things aren't perfect? Meanwhile, Venus in Virgo is like, no, let's fix it. Or I'm unhappy. I don't know if this is working. So we have this tension here between the desire for a well-oiled machine or perfection and screw it. Like, it is what it is. This is life. Let's be a little messy. Either way, I think these two planets can get on board if they're trying to learn something. What we can say about Venus and Mars is that this is friction in relationships. And sometimes this is uncomfortable. if there's a little too much friction, sometimes that friction is enough to kind of stoke the coals, if you know what I mean. We like a little bit of tension in relationships. Like there's this cat and mouse or something like magnets. It's like a flirtatious energy that can be leaned into. So this is one of those aspects for like makeup sex, for example. Like there's just something where there's some contention, but also attraction, where also like if you have people that you're really close with in your life, be it a partner or a best friend, or even someone you work with that you respect, where it's like, oh, this is the way that you are and I can't stand it, but I still love you. And so maybe there's like this Venus in Virgo where it's like, how can I work on this? How can I work on being more tolerant? How can I work on leaning into imperfection? Or maybe there's this Mars and Gemini thing where it's like, how can I let myself be more experimental or be willing to learn something new? Maybe I do need to polish it up a little bit. Maybe Venus and Virgo is right. Maybe I am slacking off a little bit. Mars and Gemini can be a little scattered and can lose focus. So there's opportunities here for us to learn. We may have to get out of our comfort zone a little bit, but it's all good and should definitely steam things up a little. So for right now, that's your Venus square Mars astrology shot of the day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, be sure to connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also get on my mailing list to stay up to date on when the next classes are going to be, as well as articles and all that other exciting stuff. Thank you.